Hello, guys, and welcome back to another installment of Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler, and today we have Captain Griffin Manchester with us. How you doing, Griffin?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good, good. We had your brother on episode, I think 5 or 6.
Yep. Yeah, Willie.
Willie was on here.
He's quite the character.
Yeah, he had a lot to say about you off the air, but nothing.
Nothing on the air, of course.
But without assuming you guys have similar backgrounds in your introduction in the commercial fishing industry, why don't you give us a go of how it got started for you?
Yeah, so for me, I started fishing right out of high school, Bristol Bay, working for my uncle. He's also part owner in Cornelia Marie, and you know, like all fishing, it's all very close and tight knit, and everybody's related to everybody, right? So I worked for him, paid for college, which was really cool, and flight school, all off working in Bristol Bay. And then when I got done with college, I worked for Trident on the fishing vessel Billiken with Casey McManus. Did that in crabbing for a couple of years, and then I went over to another company, Icicle, and did some dragging, and in the summer we always had our salmon boat fishing, and then we got another salmon boat, the Finnegan, and then Willie and I were competing against each other.
You just crammed your whole fishing career in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to your first experience of what brought you to Alaska, and what was that like?
Yeah, so I was like 18 years old, you know, and you don't know anything at all, and you know, it's like you just graduate high school and you're kind of getting ready for college, and like, okay, well, I got 3 months off. I have no idea what's going on, and so we go up there, and you fly up, and you go to a great town like Dillingham, and you get off the airplane, and basically it's a gravel road, a bunch of mud puddles, and it's pouring down rain. And then you get in a ride from whoever's willing to give you a ride there. It's not like you have a ride planned or there's a taxi or anything else. It's a pickup truck, and it's usually pretty beat up, and all the crew's in the back, and there might be 2 captains that are lucky enough to sit inside, and everybody else is outside soaking wet, and your bags are just thrown in there, and that's the way it is, and everybody's happy, and you're soaking wet, dirty. And
what year was this?
This is 2004.
Okay.
So welcome to Alaska.
Right.
Then you have no idea where you're going, what the boat looks like. You get into this boatyard and you drive through some of the biggest puddles you've ever seen. You get to the boat, and then there's no ladder to get on the boat, so you throw your bag up there, and then you're climbing up the side of an aluminum boat that's on a set of blocks, or maybe on a set of 55-gallon drums. And you know, it's quite the like 15-foot, 20-foot scale to get on top, and it's like, what am I doing here, and how do these boats get off this, and how do they get to the water? And you know nothing about how you're even going to catch a fish, how the net works. All brand new experience. All brand new, exactly.
But it was your uncle's boat, though.
Yeah, it was my uncle's boat, but I mean, still, you hear stories, and you know, Christmas or that, and you know, you don't really ever think about it much, and then you get there, and it's like, wow, this is
happening.
This is it. This is the real deal. So yeah, it was. I mean, you definitely remember it too, because it's just
vivid,
and it's an experience that, you know, it's like the Twilight Zone. I guess when you first get there, it's like, wow, this is.
Now, what was your uncle's boat?
The first boat was the Snowy River. It was a hydraulic fishing supply, like it's called a Vito boat, made I think in the early 80s in Anacortes, in Bristol Bay. So it's a 32-foot boat, and I think it was 12 feet wide. It was a nice boat, safe boat, but you know, definitely a 32-foot boat in Bristol Bay. It's not the luxury yacht that you're hoping for, right? And it's
well, they have a limit on the size of boats up there, don't they?
Yep. So it's 32 feet is maximum length.
But you can go wide, right?
You can go wide. You can make it real wide and bathtub.
What size is your boat? 32 by 32.
Yeah, 32 by 32. That's about it. And yeah, it's and they all don't steer at all. And so they're always squirreling around, and it's always a workout to steer them around. And then Bristol Bay, you've had other guys on the show talk about Bristol Bay.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, Bristol Bay is a battle.
I've been in Bristol Bay. It's the last frontier of still cowboy zone for fishermen. Right?
Yeah, or what they call like an Olympic fishery. So there's no quota, nothing else. You buy your permit, and it's catch all you can while you're in your period in your district, and it's pretty much go as much as you can, as hard as you can, as hard on your equipment, hard on your boat, hard on your net, hard on your crew, and it really is kind of that separates the men from the boys, the winners from the losers.
And you showed up at 18. On your Uncle Roger's boat.
On my Uncle Kari's boat.
On Kari's boat.
Yeah, Kari. Yeah.
And so how was that first year experience?
It was good. At first you get used to it, and we had a good season. When I was there, you got to remember, like Bristol Bay sake is commodity, right? So the price of fish was really low. So a lot of guys were really bummed out on it. But for me, when you're 18 and you make $10,000, in a month, like, wow, that was a lot of money in 2004 to me. But today it probably should have been 15 or 20, and but at the time it was great, and I have no complaints. Great experience, and really kind of just teaches you how to work hard, and gives you a different experience, and you get to meet a lot of different people, and everybody's out there for themselves, and it's a great business experience too, right? Because if that guy has a true problem, you're going to be there and you're going to help him out. But if you're catching a lot of fish and you're out there, you're not going to call the guy over there to help take your fish away from you. So it teaches you a lot how to act in business, and just how life goes.
From the front combat line too.
Yeah, from the front combat line too. Yeah, and back then too. I mean, you could be going along and some guy doesn't like you and he's just gonna ram you on the boat, and that's the way it was. Mm-hmm. It's calmed down a little bit now, but I mean, it's battle boats out in Bristol Bay, and it's definitely. They had a show on it. I think it was called Bristol Bay Brawlers. And it didn't do justice to how chaotic the Bristol Bay fishery is. It really didn't.
I've never even heard of the show. Was that?
It was on Discovery Channel. It had a couple of other trident fishermen like ourselves. And it was on it, and it didn't show very well because they didn't portray the actual fishery. And you already have the hard aspect of being on a 32-foot boat with 4 guys on there. Now you're going to put a camera crew on the boat, and it just doesn't work out so well. But Bristol Bay is a different animal.
Yeah.
So
is that the only fishery you've done?
No. So I also seined in Southeast Alaska.
Totally different experience.
Totally, yeah, exactly. So I did that in college in Petersburg on a boat named the Freedom. Another trident guy, I believe now, a guy named Bruce Merfern. And I think that the boat has been completely redone. It flipped over a couple of years ago. But completely different. You're definitely in a processor-controlled fishery where they tell you, you can get 100,000 pounds in this 4-day opener. Go whack them, and you might be done in a day. And then you have 3 days off, and you go to town and hang out.
Spend that money.
Spend your money. Go talk to the girls. If you're old enough to go to the bar, or you can sneak in, well, then that's what everybody does. Right? Yeah, exactly. And completely different and a little bit bigger boat.
How big was she?
It was 48 feet when I was on it at the time.
Now that's a yacht in Bristol Bay.
Yeah, that would be a yacht. And I think now it's like 56 or something. It's been sponsored, widened, and I'd have to bring out the old pictures. And actually, out of that experience, I actually worked with Derek Siebold that just passed away on the Destination. That was my roommate on the Freedom. So kind of sad story to that, but great guy.
It actually also shows how close
it does.
Our industry is.
Yeah, it does, and it's pretty sad for me because there's a guy I worked with, and
slept with.
Yeah, basically. Well, not on
Slow
that end,
down.
but yeah.
We're not onto those stories yet, but
yeah, no, exactly.
But I mean, shared a stateroom with.
Yeah, exactly. So you get pretty close with the guy, and then you both drift away, and then it was 2 years ago. You get a phone call, and it's like gone, and you know that guy, so that's pretty hard on you. So, but we had a great time, and I look back, it was a lot of fun fishing in the summer. Southeast is beautiful. It's where all the cruise ships are. If anybody ever gets a chance, take the cruise ship, do the Southeast Alaska deal.
Or get a job tendering for a summer.
Or get a job tendering. Or
leave Seattle, take that Inside Passage job.
Inside Passage, exactly. That's and you definitely, and even today, I mean, somebody goes, hey, if I have 4 days off, I'd definitely go on that Inside Passage on the tender and go fly home. I mean, that's probably one of the best experiences you can have on a boat. I mean, you have the Caribbean experience and all that, but as far as mountains, driving up through there, it is just beautiful.
That's the Blue Angels you're here flying over right now. But I want to pull you back just a minute because you were, not that I want you to get emotional, but you were right there, and I just want to touch on that point that in our industry, we're all connected. It's like you knew someone that knew someone, or
yeah, exactly. And I think it's hard on everybody once something like that happens because we're so connected, and here, I go snowmobiling with the owner of that boat. I worked with one of the guys, and then his brother worked with me too, and then it gets pretty close.
Well, what's amazing about it is after the Destination went down, the entire fleet, and I say this over and over again, when I say the word fleet, I'm not talking about the Trident fleet. I'm not talking about the Icicle fleet. I'm talking about the fleet in general. Everybody came behind that for the fundraisers and the memorials. And
and I really wish, and I don't want to count dollars, but I mean, I think a lot of people threw a lot of money down that you would never even know, all the way down to a couple of electricians, the guys that work on the hydraulics, everybody that works on the boats, not just the guys that worked on them or other owners or other processors, everybody entire, fishery wide really steps up in those times, and that's pretty cool.
Do you remember Eric Etter from The Seeker?
I don't. I remember hearing the story. Terrible story again. Fell overboard and they never found him. And I hate those stories.
But they happen.
But they do happen, yeah.
And I think the community came behind his family really strong too.
Exactly. Same thing. There was another boat, probably, was it 95 with the Northwest Mariner? And same thing. Those kids gone through. College was paid for, in a great thing. So, and that shows how close the community is, how great it is. But what are we? 4,000 people, 5,000 people? It's really small.
It is.
It really is, and
you can almost not touch someone in our industry without knowing. What do they call that? The layers of separation, or how do they?
Like 7 degrees of separation, or
in our industry, it's like 2 degrees.
Yeah, or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? So you can find any other actor that's been in a Kevin Bacon movie.
And you can do that in our industry within 2.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I have never sat down together before today, right? But yet you mentioned Jim McManus. I know Jim personally. You know Jim personally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and great guy. And the other thing, I'll touch on it too, is so then you look at Jim, and then you look at Casey. I grew up with his son, Deadliest Catch captain or whatever else, and good guy, and I'm sitting there, and I work for a regional airline. I can't say names because I'm not authorized to do that on this podcast, but great company. But I'm sitting there going through training, and we got a couple of guys there and just diehard Deadliest Catch fans.
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, I know all these guys.
Right.
And they're sitting there like, yeah, this Griff guy here, he's probably full of shit.
Full of shit.
So, all right. I get on the phone, on a break. I'm like, hey, Casey, these guys just love you. Send me some shirts or whatever you can send me, blah, blah, blah. We'll work it out when I get home. And what does Casey do? He gets his wife to send it.
It's all out.
Yeah, he gets his wife to send it because he's in Alaska, get all these shirts and T-shirts, and then he's got, and it's like Christmas for him because now they have signed, Deadliest Catch, Discovery Channel stuff, and that's how small the industry really is.
It is that small.
It is
that small.
It really is, and it's a pretty cool thing. It really is. So I mean, other than the fact that everybody knows what everybody else is doing, but
I'm gonna touch on the point that so fishing wasn't dangerous enough for you, right? So you thought you'd get in a capsule that flies through the air at 500 miles an hour. So not only are you the captain of a boat, but you also are a pilot.
Yes, yeah.
You're kind of splitting two dangerous jobs there at the same time.
Kind of, and they both started at the same time, right? So I went fishing right out of high school, and I was going to flight school, started in the fall, normal school schedule, and went to community college at Big Bend Community College in Moses Lake, great flight school. But I was able to pay for that by fishing. So I guess you could say that it was just dangerous all year long, or a break between them, whatever you want to say.
One danger financed the other.
Yeah, one danger financed the other, and kind of my two loves, fishing and flying. So I've been able to keep both of those going, and it's been entertaining for me. And then you get married later on. And
I was gonna say I see the ring.
Yeah, so then you get married, and then the wife, then she has to put up with both of them too. So, at least you're not always talking about one thing. You got like the car guy or the motorcycle guy. And you got to have at least two things to talk about, not just one. So
not the one, yeah.
I can talk about fishing or flying and still bore her to death, but she puts up with me.
Well, you're gonna be building a new boat here, or thinking about it.
Yeah, so we're thinking about building a new boat for the Bristol Bay fishery. We own two boats at the moment. We've been leasing one out with kind of marginal success.
With the permit or without the permit?
Without the permit. Both permits are on our other boat that we had rebuilt.
So why would you put two permits on one boat?
The advantage of putting two permits on one boat, so in Bristol Bay, one permit gets you 150 fathoms of net. The second permit gets you another 50 fathoms. And the advantage to that is you've already paid for all the bills on that boat, the insurance, the crew, everything else, and just that extra 50 fathoms is
300 feet.
Yeah, well, it's 300 feet, but it's just extra money, basically. I mean,
Is it 300 feet?
Well, it's 50 times 6, so that's 300 feet.
Yeah.
So you won. I mean, if you have a 900-foot net or you have a 1,200-foot net, and the 1,200-foot net extra catches you a lot more fish than simple math.
With the same maintenance cost.
With the same maintenance cost, same operational cost, and everything else.
Smart move.
So yeah, it works out.
Can you add another permit then, or are you kind of capped? Or
it's two permits. So a boat that has two permits is usually called like a double D, or they'll call them a D boat, just because it's a dual permit. Mm-hmm. The one downside to that is if you do get a infraction for doing something that the state of Alaska doesn't want you to do, both permit holders take a hit. So, a $4,000 fine is now an $8,000 fine. And the guy on the back deck may not even be running the boat, and now he faces a violation too because the guy running the boat didn't do it right. So,
you got to depend on your captain, right?
Yeah, you got to depend on. So that's why most dual permit boats is family or somebody related. so they can deal with that.
So your boat currently, Willie's running that now. Is that correct?
Yeah, my brother runs it, and then we have the other permit in my dad's name. And because of my flying, I've never been able to have a permit in my name. The problem with it is that the way the state of Alaska and anybody treats fishing violations is it will either be a misdemeanor, a felony, or a fish and game violation, and I'm a security clearance holder, and that would totally destroy my flying career. So it's kind of sad in that aspect because, here you are
doing it all the right way.
Doing it the right way, trying to make a living, and maybe you make a mistake and you don't have your net on board and there's 20 seconds left in the opener and the airplane happens to see you and now you're in trouble.
It could be just that close.
And it can be because they got an airplane flying around over the top of you.
But you're trying to pull your net in.
And he's got the camera rolling and bang, It's not like you're out there trying to...
Let's get that extra 3 minutes.
Yeah, or defraud somebody or hey, we're out here, or bang, all of a sudden the motor quits. Well, now you're in trouble and you're going to pay for it. But, it's not like they're like, oh, yeah, no big deal. You got a flat tire. We understand you're on the side of the road. Like, nope.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
You're paying the fine. So it's an interesting fishery in a lot of regards.
All you ever hear about the Bristol Bay fishery is its combat.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
It is.
And I think this year, where my brother was,
was he in the noosh?
It was in the noosh.
Everyone was in the noosh.
Well, and
it's the only place that had fish.
And that's what everybody says, and that's kind of our home base, and we fish the noosh. And now
there's 750 other boats out there.
Well, 1,000, and that's where we fish. And now you normally have 400 to 500 boats, and now you have 1,000 boats and 1,200 permits, I believe, at the top of it. So then you get desperation from guys that don't ever fish there, and now they see a guy show up with, a big load, and then you have people following you. So now you start playing that game, and talk about a stress builder for my brother. I mean, I don't know how he got through this year. I mean, he had a great year.
He's probably drinking right now.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't think he answers the phone today. We should have brought him on. Just ask him about his stress level.
So you've been going up for years now. I mean...
Yeah, I pretty much every year, and then the last 3-4 years I've really slowed it down.
Sped it up in the air.
Yeah, exactly, kind of.
Is that where you see your career choice going then? Towards the air? Well, it can't be all the way because you're building a new boat.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like a balance. I mean, if one starts to take over the other, I think I'll slow down the one and
throttle up on the other.
Yeah, you just got to have a little balance. I don't.
So your life is a twin screw right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep adjusting to keep it pointed towards the wind.
Keep it going straight. Yeah. No, and I like I've always said, I like both of them.
If you had to choose, that's a tough one, isn't it?
That's a tough one. If I had to choose, I don't know. Maybe McDonald's or something, and just throw them both away.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I enjoy both. They both have their thing, right? So you have, like in the fishing industry, for me, it's, with lack of a better term, it's more cowboyish, right? We don't have all this training. You go out, you're kind of your own hunter-gatherer, very self-reliant. You don't have anybody else really helping you. You're out in the middle of the sea or middle of the bay, and it's not like somebody's radioing you or telling you how much fuel you need to have on board, or where they think this is going to be. And then with flying, I basically show up to the airplane, the mechanics have it all ready. You have a gate agent, you have a dispatch release that gives you exactly your route, where you're going to go. You put it into a computer, and bang, you're gone. And sure, both of them have a huge reliability or responsibility on your part, right? But as far as the planning for it, fishing. I mean, it's you.
It's off from the hip.
Yeah,
that's it.
And it's from the hip. And the captain is the guy that has the whole responsibility. You are the man. And you bomb out. Everybody's looking at you. So, it's like, wow, that really didn't work out very well today. And, they can't really say anything to you at the galley table when you're having dinner. And it's like, hey, Griff, today sucked. Nobody's going to say that to you, but you get the point pretty quick that nobody wants to talk to you because you just probably worked them to the bone and they didn't make any money, and you didn't make any money, and they're not happy, but they can't express that because they know that then it's just going to be bad for everybody even more. So
Bristol Bay can be not only the combat side of it, though, but the current side, and I mean, it can be a damn dangerous place to be. Do you remember a time when you were really scared up there?
As far as being scared, yeah, I was fishing. Actually, we were tendering in Prince William Sound in the summer, and it's probably little known to most of the population, but Prince William Sound has icebergs, and we're cruising around in the middle of the night. I'm on the Billiken, the first Trident vessel, and it was kind of nice because we had most of the crab crew on there, which is very rare. Most tender years, you don't have very much of the crab crew because they're either doing something else.
They're spending that money.
Yeah, they're spending their money, or they try and rotate through just so they get a break. And it happened to be that a couple of the other hands that they had hired had gotten hurt. So they called me and I had to go fill in, and it wasn't very much fun for me, and I really didn't want to be there. Being that it was my break because I had just gotten done running our salmon boat, and this is probably like first week of August, second week of August, and I get up there and tendering's fine and great crew, good captain, and we're just traveling around middle of the night. We're full, going back to the processor, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the couch, relaxing, and it's just like bang. I'm like, oh,
that's not normal.
And the first thought that comes to my head, and I was sitting next to Stan Hansen, Sig Hansen's cousin. The two of us were sitting there, and we're having like a Pepsi or something, just watching TV on the flat screen there, and the couch moves forward about 4 feet. So I'm like, Stan, I think we just killed somebody. And the bow's up kind of high, and like we'd run into a boat, and now we're sitting on top of them. And we open up the galley door there, and we have climbed up on top of an iceberg. And the boat's probably at a 5 to 6 degree angle, and we're just sitting there bobbing on this iceberg. And in the middle of the night, just pitch dark, and the thing just looks like a ghost. Most people haven't seen like an iceberg in the middle of the night, and here we are just sitting there bouncing on top of this iceberg. And it just happened to be sloped right, and the boat just climbed up it, and it damaged it and bent everything up, but we had no leaks, nothing else, and we were able to get out of there. But I would say probably opening that door and looking at that and being like,
who was on wheel watch?
Well, what the hell is this?
What?
Well, the captain was on wheel watch. It wasn't like we had like a 18-year-old kid, so and to his credit, I mean. Iceberg doesn't show up on the radar.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to see it. And it was really surreal, pretty scary, and like, well, you kind of go through the thought process of, all right, is this thing going to sink, and I got to get the survival suit on?
Were you scrambling to try to find any leaks? And
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, we did that, and then you pop the voids, and then because it's a void and it's sealed, the oxygen has already like created the rust in there, and then you got to put on the SCBA, with oxygen and the mask if you want to go down in them. So we went down in there, a couple of us with that mask on, and had to breathe the oxygen because there's no oxygen in the voids. But yeah, no, that was pretty scary. And it's flat calm too. definitely not like you're rocking around and thinking you're going to die, but you just never know. In Alaska, the weirdest stuff can happen. And you guys had the Gladiator a few years ago to rip the whole bottom off, and they were really lucky to get out. The other time I think that we were really pushing it, my brother and I were fishing, just completely overloaded the boat, and we were lucky to get to a tender to start offloading because we were sinking the whole time we got there.
Risk and reward, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's all how much of a risk do you want to take for the payoff? And in Bristol Bay especially is that fishery where you can fill your boat up like that in 10 minutes and you can keep going and you can sink the boat, or you can go deliver and hope to get it again, but you may not be able to. So
right.
Sometimes it works out in your favor to go fill the boat up till it's sinking, call the tender and tell them they need to come get you.
It's not like you can just leave your net out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's one of those ones where, pigs get slaughtered, hogs get rich.
Right.
So, and it's really hard to sit there and be like, well, we need to do this for 5 more minutes and then we're going to close it off. And, everybody's super excited because the boat's full now. But, you're going to put another 2,000 pounds on and now the boat's going to be seriously compromised.
In almost every other fishery, you have that time, though. Pots, for example.
You
can pick them or you can leave them.
Or
in Bristol Bay, you can't. You cannot drop your net.
No.
You're pulling it in or...
Yeah. But, pots... The crab fishery was that way before rationalization. But even you could argue today...
But you didn't have to bring it on board. You could purposely leave it.
You didn't have to, but when you were leaving town, you wanted to have as many of them as you had so that you could maximize your time. And even today, you still want to maximize your efficiency because everybody's, you could say, even more pushing you to be more efficient today because there's less boats and you have to be very efficient. And the more pots you can carry out there with the less fuel spent, the more money everybody makes.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Everybody's out there to make the most amount of money.
That's how pay works a lot on these boats is the crew pays the fuel, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the less fuel you burn, the more money you make.
Yep, exactly.
And the more you take out there with you, the more you bring back.
Yep, and everybody is very conscientious of that fact too, because
why is he doing 9 knots right now? Slow down. Slow down.
Or why are we taking 2 loads of pots out there when hey guys, let's think about this. Do you want to go home, be there, be safe, or hey, should we all go take this risk? And well, the weather's good today, but in 2 days it might be bad. But we're going to push the limit and we'll get 40 of them off right away, and
it's still that way.
And it's still that way. It is. And as much as the safety aspect is everybody's tried to push, it to get rid of that is almost impossible. Because everybody always wants to be the most efficient or get it done the fastest, or high school graduation's coming up and their daughter's going through and they want to be home.
Sure.
And it's always
all
gonna
that
be
plays
there.
a part.
It is. It's always going to be there, and it's in your mind or whatever else. That how do you get it out? You're never going to have it. So.
Do you have any kids yet?
No kids yet. Not yet.
Oh, now, mind you, he's saying not yet, and he's really flexing his arms like he's good. There's one coming. We just don't know
well,
yet.
we don't know about that, and I can't.
Now, when that happens, do you see your children growing up?
Yeah, I'd like them to go to Bristol Bay.
That's your home, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a good experience. As far as keeping the business, I think with my brother and I think we'd rather just sell it when we get to retirement, and that's it. And it might be a global warming thing, or who knows what it is, but I think at that point, let's just get rid of it. Do something else. Good story. Grandkids or whatever else can tell the story we were fishermen, but I don't know. I don't see it going past probably 2-3 generations. I really don't. I mean, pretty much every other major fishery in the world is not existing. So, is our expiration date? That's the question we have to ask ourselves today, being young fishermen. And
don't you think the sustainability that Alaska's forced on the industry, though, is...
Well, it's the best in the world.
Yeah.
It is.
But is it good enough?
That's the question. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, you ask yourself, do you want to ride it out to the end? And maybe it works out good. Or do you sell out when you know you can get a paycheck? So, it's like anything else. You just never know. And maybe Alaska is the exception, and they are able to pull it off. That would be great.
For example, this year, we actually just talked about earlier, Chignik did not allow them to fish at all.
And it's great because they didn't have the fish. But then you have to go back to that underlying question of why were the fish not there?
Right.
And everybody's scratching their head. Because here, they have 50-some boats in Chignik, and there's 50 families, blah, blah, blah. Or there's probably 5 families per boat, so you got 250 families all scratching their head going, what happened?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then you got guys
we're eating ramen this year.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got guys like us that are like, well, these guys didn't do very good. Our price is up now, so it's better for us. And that's the way Alaska's always been. So, I don't know. I'd rather just see them do something else and not see them struggle like us, because we've had the years
But you like the struggle, clearly.
Well, I think everybody likes the challenge.
And that's well put.
Yeah.
The challenge, not the struggle.
It's not the struggle, it's the challenge. Nobody wants to struggle, but...
Well, it's the same as if you were going out to a lake with your dad, right? And dropping a pole in the water. You don't know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
You don't know what size it's going to be.
And you decide on, we're going to have 10 rods and we're going to have this special bait, and the guy next to you is going to have this bait and that bait, and maybe he even has like a lead sinker and he's trying to throw it over the top of your lines and sabotage you.
That's Bristol Bay.
And that's Bristol Bay.
And that is Bristol Bay.
And that's the way it is. But then somehow the guys figure out how to do it right, or they're just really good at it, and that's what makes it fun for everybody.
That comes with time, though, right?
It does, yeah. And also, one of my favorite Bristol Bay stories is the first year we have our boat up there. I see a bunch of fish jumping in. We're on the radio talking to... You have like a radio group, so you have like 4 or 5 guys, and it takes about 5 or 6 years, and you realize that all it is just a bullshit group for the guys, because nobody ever tells you anything that's worthwhile. So, and they're all the same. You can't find somebody that's going to be honest with you about what they're catching. But
we got nothing over here.
Yeah,
and they're the ones calling for the tender to come in and pick them up.
Yeah, or they're always catching 1,500 pounds every set, and it's like, dude, I know you've made 1,000 sets this year, and you do not have 1.5 million pounds in this year. So, but it is nice because it provides entertainment and the rest of the stuff. But also, if you do run into a problem, like I said before, you have a problem, everybody stops fishing to come get you.
That is so true.
And that's pretty much it. And that's what you expect out of them is, hey, we're having a problem. We might be in trouble. Come get us, or we'll come get you. But not, hey, I got $100,000 set on board. Come over here and you'll get one too. No, I'm going to go get another one. And,
I'm not going to tell you about this part.
Tell you about that part, but it is there where you're going to get the help when you need it. But the other aspect is not there.
So on Facebook, there's this page, Bristol Bay Jobs or Bristol Bay. You may or may not be in that group.
I'm not on social media at all. I don't do it, but my brother and my dad do it, and we've actually hired a guy this year out of that group.
I was going to say, so I see people posting in there going, hey.
Yeah, hire me. And we hired a guy, and probably the best guy we've hired just off the street. I can't say, oh yeah, he's a great guy, but no, really good guy, best guy we've hired, no references, because we've hired guys off crab boats or whatever else with.
So is social media the new walk in the dock?
I don't know.
Well, you hired someone off of it.
We hired somebody off it. Yeah,
when I started, you had to walk the dock.
Yeah.
You had to.
I would say that you definitely have a good chance, but you definitely also need to have a little bit of experience. But if you're here, that also helps too.
Yeah.
If you go, hey, I'm on this chat, I'm going to be in Naknek or I'm going to be in Dillingham at this time. Well, now great. He shows
Right
you took
there.
the initiative. You've paid for the plane ticket to be up there. You want to be there. You've kind of done some effort. You might show up with rain gear that's completely subpar.
Instead of sitting on your couch down in
South Carolina somewhere.
saying, I want to do that.
Yeah, and have nothing to do. And at least you're up there
Making the effort.
making the effort and having some struggle.
I would ask you at this point what guys could do to get in, but you just explained that very well.
Yeah, that it's a small niche. I would say probably as far as deckhands, I mean, I got great deckhand stories for days. Probably the best deckhand that I ever had was a guy out of Detroit, Michigan, and
Any experience?
yeah, he'd been fishing for a few years. My brother met him, and he was pot cod fishing out of Kodiak, and probably the toughest guy I've ever run into in my entire life.
There's a story here.
And he was a 3-time state wrestling champion in Detroit, or in Michigan, for state Michigan champion in high school. And the only reason why he wasn't 4 is because he knocked himself out trying to beat this guy so bad. and just great guy. I mean, 120% speed all the time. And it was just, it was fun to work with him because he worked so hard.
Pushed you, actually.
No, didn't push. I was just, for me, it was entertainment. Because here's this guy, you just look back and go, wow, he's really working hard. When you're the captain, you don't really, if somebody's pushing you, then there's a problem, right? The guy wants to be the captain, or you're not working hard enough, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're coming across as not being confident in what you're doing. If you are good at running the boat, there's not going to be somebody trying to push you like anything else, If you have somebody pushing you, well, then either you have a problem, that guy has a problem, or it's a combination of both of you. Yeah. I mean, I don't like that, and if it was that case, it would be like, all right, and then this guy's leaving.
I was just thinking that like a work ethic is almost catchy. You see someone working hard, you push yourself a little more.
That's a little bit more. Yeah, I mean,
not that he's trying to climb in your captain's chair. Just that you
see
see some guy working that hard, and you're like, oh,
No, you definitely respect it, and the rest, and maybe you go down there, and when you have a minute or two here, you go down and try and make him something to eat real quick or something.
So he was your toughest deckhand?
Yeah, by far.
Just because the way he worked?
Just because the way he worked, and I mean, there's a guy that, like, he's got a hole in his boots, and, like, most guys would be like, oh, this sucks.
My shoe's wet.
Yeah, his shoe's wet, and he just go jump in the hold, knowing that his boot's going to get wet every day. No problem, whatever else. No
just
problem.
Get it done.
Yeah, and just get it done. I'm like...
Where's he at now? Do you know?
I don't know where... Guy's name was Conrad, and I think he's still fishing cod. He ran a boat for cod for a little bit, but I don't know. I got to call him again. He was pretty entertaining too.
Conrad, good job sticking out, bud.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're about out of time here, Griffin. I can't thank you enough for coming.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I could go on for hours, and we could talk about Deadliest Catch guys. We could talk about boats flipping over. We could talk about big sets. I mean, whatever we need to talk about.
We'll get those on the next one.
Yeah,
for sure.
We got to bring Willie in too, so then you can get the two of us.
If I put you guys both in the same room, it's going to be really entertaining for everybody. I think.
I think so. We could do that one.
We're going to do that one.
Yeah, we need to do that. Yeah,
we're going to do that. All right, guys, this has been another installment of Galley Stories. Well, before we leave, Griffin, do you have anything you want to add, or?
No, I just thank everybody for listening, and look forward to come back and maybe get my brother and I on there, and we can.
That would be.
And got to get some of these other characters on
That'd
there.
be like
definitely.
two alpha males, right?
Yeah.
Two alpha wolves walking into the same room.
Exactly. And then you got to get some of these old timers like Magni Ness on there. That,
You know, his son, John Dwayne, contacted me about talking to his dad, and I'd love to talk to his dad. You know, Kari's brother, Kari Ness's brother.
Yeah, and he I mean, he's pretty much the pioneer of...
Magni is one of the
pioneer of every single form of fishery in the entire world.
You know, I've heard him explain as the guy that would be like, oh, well, let's make a new hook. I want to try this new hook now.
Yeah,
and, then,
and that's his problem is he figured it out for everybody, but he
then
shared everything.
And then ran off and figured out the next thing.
Yeah, and he shared everything with everybody, and then ran off and got the next thing. So we call it Magni Ness disease. So you can't have Magni Ness disease in this industry because you're going to give everybody your secrets for one, and for two, you're going to get too bored and have to go chase the next, golden bar somewhere. And
we'll have to get him on here.
We get him on here. But no, I appreciate everybody listening in, and thank you, and I look forward to coming back.
All right, guys. So again, another installment of Galley Stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. And please like and share, and leave a comment if you would. And we'll see you next time.
Well, that one went pretty well.